his screws loose, they done stripped the bolts on him. Should've never sent him to pick up the work for me. Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart Boy was shooting with a 36 on him. Said if he wasn't in the rush, they was all goners.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Chuddy's Corner. I'm Ben Handler, joined as always by Nick Perino of nickperino.com, where you can watch this podcast, Chuddy's Corner, simulcast, video and audio. Of course, you can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else you get your podcasts as Chuddy's Corner. Watch it on Vimeo or again, nickperino.com. Also your home for real estate needs. You can find me, Ben, at King Chuddy on Twitter. And you can find Nick at _Nick Perino. So subscribe to the pod, give us a review. We'd love to hear what you guys think about us and about the Celtics. So speaking of the Celtics, without further ado, that's what we do here. The last time you heard from us, the Celtics were 14-14. Things were about as the record indicated. Some good, some bad, and it pretty much evened out. A lot of weird. Since then, we've had 8 games played. We're at the All-Star break now. We are filming on Monday, March 9th at about 4:30. So a couple days still before we get more Celtics basketball. For now, we're sitting at 19-17. And that's after a 4-game winning streak where we dipped to 15-17. So 5-3 since we taped, but 4-0 in our last 4. 19-7 again at the All-Star break, which this year, for once, is also the halfway point in the season mathematically. 36 games down, 36 more to go in the 72-game season. We're in 4th place, 5 games out of first, but we're only 3 games up on the 11 seed, which again would be 1 spot out of the play-in. So in other words, the middle of the East is extremely jumbled together. Things are tight. We're 4th today, but we've dipped, to 9th. It can go back and forth really easily. So don't put a ton of stock in the 4 seed at the moment. So again, since the last time you were with us, the Celtics started off with a big win over the Hawks. Then they went on the road. They had that Pelicans game where they looked amazing in the first half, got up by about 24 points, and then had one of the worst collapses we've seen really in recent memory, a seemingly defining loss. It seemed like that was kind of rock bottom. Then we went out and played the Mavericks, which we played well most of the game, but then let the game get away from us in the 4th again. Then heroically battled back in the final 3 minutes, only to have Luka Doncic stick multiple daggers into us for another heartbreaking loss that felt like it had to be rock bottom, surely. Then we went to Atlanta, and it all just fell apart. We got destroyed. I think Gallinari made literally 10 threes, and I'm not sure he missed. It certainly didn't feel like he did. Though basically the only time he showed up all season. Absolutely railroaded by the Hawks. That had to be rock bottom. And maybe it has been. Hopefully it has been, because then we came home, managed to climb back onto our feet with 4 straight wins, a couple nice ones in there, to roll into the All-Star break with some semblance of momentum. We're about to get Marcus Smart back. Things have probably looked as well now as they have in a while. So with that, I introduce my co-host, Nick Perino. Nick, how's it going?
What's up, Ben?
Oh, not too much. I'm fiending more basketball. Loving all these college games, don't get me wrong, but I already missed the Celtics. But they need this break.
I needed this mental health break myself, so I thought it would help out, but I'm feeling more anxious than ever. So
right, and of course, that first game is against Brooklyn, so
right,
it could be a very fast wake-up call once we do get Celtics basketball back. Whew. But anyway, having said that, let's pick it up with those 8 games I just discussed. The big win, the 3-game skid, and then the 4 wins in a row to close out the time before the All-Star break. Without kind of recapping the whole season, anything new or specific jump out at you from those 8 games? Any takeaways? How low were you after the Pelicans and Mavs game? And how high have you climbed, I guess, in the last 4?
For as far as differences from the rest of the season, I really think even in the games we won, I feel like the same things are plaguing us that they have all year. The defense and offensive consistency have always been a problem. If you listen to the show, that's pretty much my biggest thing I harp on the most. We have potential to be really good defensively and really good offensively. And for, probably half of the year we have been, but we go through these lulls that are just, it's not conducive to, championship basketball. And it's things I've seen this season, last season. So it's not really anything new. And I don't think, these last 4 games we've fixed that necessarily. We obviously played better, especially, on the offensive side. And, but yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's fixed. I think, at my lowest after that 3-game losing streak, I was in tank mode. No, not officially tank mode, but
right.
I mean, you know how intense I can get.
Yeah. Well, hey, it was pretty bad. We were
I get
15,
passionate.
17.
Right. So
that's
dropping
bad.
below 500, optically was scary.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I can't remember the last time. I mean, when was the last time we were 500 at this point in the season? I mean,
I would guess it was Brad's first year when we were just bad. I think so.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like that we haven't been 500 at the halfway point or close to it since I can't even remember. So that was scary. And I wasn't ready to completely blow it up, but crazy thoughts were going through my head. But I don't know. I mean, we still have the same ceiling and the same floor, I think, that I thought before those 8 games as I do now. And I think, something, I don't know if anything internally can get us over the hump. So I don't know. I mean,
well, when you say over the hump, you mean to be a contender?
Yeah, to be a contender. So, I mean, I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here.
Sure. No, I just wanted to clarify what if you mean over the hump of 500.
Well, no, I think we can be more than 500.
Well, yeah, that's why I was looking for clarification.
So, I mean, I know a lot of people are saying Marcus, he's coming back and he is going to help us with, consistency probably on both sides. I mean, we're definitely going to move the ball better on offense. He's obviously going to help out on the defensive end, but I still don't think that's really an excuse for, a long, prolonged periods of, just bad play. I mean, he's, a 3rd best player. I mean, he's, just as important as anyone pretty much, but I think we should be able to win games without him. And at least not even win games. Like, I think we should look like a competitive NBA playoff caliber team, which we didn't for a lot of that, for the first 3 games. So,
yeah, I guess.
And I mean, the biggest takeaway probably from those losses was, other than the consistency on both ends, I mean, we were letting up 3-pointers at a ridiculous rate. I mean, I think we were letting up 42% or something during those 3 games. And I know one of those games was against the Hawks where they just, they couldn't be stopped. But, we have to improve on the consistency. And, that's the mark of a young team, I think. But I don't know. Maybe we'll get there this year. Maybe we won't. But not much has changed for me.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, I mean the consistency is pretty obvious. I guess we keep harping on it, and I think one thing you said, how it's been kind of half good, half bad. It's also that it'll come and go so much in games. I referenced it briefly, but for example, in that Pelicans game, when we got up, I don't know, we had I think a 20-point lead, maybe at the half, and it was like 65-40 at one point. It felt like, at least. To get to the point where we got that lead, I know the Pelicans aren't good at defense, but it really, you watch just those 2 quarters, and it felt, to someone who had never wasn't familiar at all with the NBA, you just show them that and they think, wow, the Celtics, they have to be one of the best teams in basketball, because that's how good we can look at times. And then right in that same game, again, in the second half, the collapse was as good as the first half was good. It was even worse in the second half. And then obviously in crunch time, which is also a shame, because in that game, and I'll talk about it more in a second, but Tatum made 2 huge clutch plays down the stretch, which were super encouraging. But obviously you blow a 24-point lead and lose in overtime, you're not allowed to talk about that. And then the Mavericks game, I mean, again, now we actually, that was probably the most promising 3 minutes I'd seen in a while. We got, I think, down 11, I want to say, with about 3 minutes left. And then Brad actually put Neesmith in, and he kind of changed things on defense, just gave us another switchable wing defender and a guy who was running and moving the ball. And we got right back in the game. It was super encouraging. And then again, if the Luka 2 step back threes, I can't even really get mad at the Celtics for that. It wasn't like bad defense. You could argue here and there about switching and whatever, but at the end of the day, it was fine defense, just amazing offense. You're not stopping Luka when he does that. So that hurt. And then the Hawks game was just a no-show. The thing about Marcus, we've talked ad nauseum about Marcus, how much we love him, all the great stuff he brings, how much they miss him. But I think the thing that gives me the most optimism for how much he'll help is that it really does feel like the 2 areas where we've been hurting the most and have had the least consistency, and it's directly led to some of our worst play, is the ball movement on offense and the perimeter defense, which are probably his 2 biggest strengths, kind of. So he's really good at those things. Just his presence alone will help in those areas. And plus, it's a trickle down effect of kind of everyone else having to do less, and not just straight up not playing shitty guys as much to an extent. So that's part of it. And then another thing that's annoying, I guess, is as we've talked about all year, is the consistency kind of in Brad's rotations. Whereas I just mentioned Neesmith looked great. It seemed like Neesmith was really carving out a role, and now he was DMP the last few games. And again, we won those games, and the guys he played looked good. So in a weird way, sometimes it kind of looks like Brad is pulling the right strings. I guess it looks that way when we win, but when we lose, it's really frustrating. And Neesmith, he's the kind of guy we want to see out there. He's I think the 2nd youngest guy on the team. He's a lottery pick, late lottery, but again, a guy you'd want to see getting these minutes. So to see him play well, seemingly earn the minutes, and then take him out because Brad wants guys who are going to move the ball is just frustrating. But like I said, it did seem to work in those 4 wins. And the one takeaway from the wins, because those losses had everyone thinking we are not a contender with this roster. Like the biggest optimist can't say this team is a contender, even though, like I said, we'll get a lot better. But the one thing about those 4 wins where, the inconsistency and all that was still there. But the good thing was that it seemed like Brad kind of shortened the rotations, wasn't playing as many guys, which I think just allows for more in-game consistency at least. And the guys he was giving the minutes to were playing harder. Like, it felt like we were making more of a concerted effort to win. Like, those 4 games meant more to us. And you got some of our best performances, and then also finally closing out some games. I mean, that Wizards game especially, we had no business winning that game, down 5 with 40 seconds left. And not only scoring the 3 baskets like Tatum did in the last 40 seconds, but all of them kind of knowing exactly what he wanted to do, putting his head down, getting to the basket, and scoring 3 huge clutch baskets for a win. It feels like we haven't pulled one of those out. We've been on the other end of those every time this year. So just getting a win like that, I mean, it sounds silly, but this team just hasn't been able to string wins together. So kind of getting back to a team that wins those kind of games in itself would obviously fix a lot of the problems.
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying about Brad and the rotation, I mean, But when you talk about him pulling the right strings, I think, it's hard to tell, obviously, because like you said, Grant will play 20 minutes and then get a DNP, and then
Right.
Neesmith will get a DNP and then play 20 minutes. So when Grant comes out and plays 20 minutes and has a great game, it's like, oh well, Brad pulled the right string, but maybe he pulled the wrong string DNPing him the game before that. I mean, it's just you don't really know, and we're not going to know without consistent minutes from everybody. And like you said, maybe he didn't play Neesmith that one game because he wants better ball rotation, ball movement.
Mhm.
But he also, after, stretches where we're playing awful or bad losses, one of the things he always hammers is that, it's not necessarily about the wins and losses. It's about, how they look,
Mhm.
as a team and if they're progressing and developing in the direction they're going. So if that's the case, then why aren't you playing
Well, right.
Neesmith and Grant more minutes? I mean, why don't you let
That's what I'm
them
saying.
figure it out? If it's not
And if we'd
about winning and
lost the
losing,
last 4 games, I'd be a lot more frustrated about it. I mean,
right?
again, when you win the 4 games, at a certain point, we just need the wins,
Yeah,
because we can say, it is all. I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. It's more about it's not all about the results. Yeah, but at the same time, for 5 games under 500, we need
yeah,
some goddamn results.
right.
So I get both sides. And yeah, it worked because in those last few games, he gave Grant and Teague a lot of minutes and they played well. If they didn't, people would be at Brad's door right now with pitchforks and torches.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked. And I don't know how much of that is Brad knowing his guys. And I kind of get in a season like this where there's no opportunity for breaks. So maybe giving a guy a few DMPs in a row is a way to keep Neesmith fresh. I'm not sure. Or maybe that's giving Brad too much credit. I don't want to read into it too much, but for whatever reason, it did seem like, we were basically ready to just cut Teague for nothing after getting a bunch of DMPs in a row. He seems to have actually gotten rest or gotten whatever, and he's come back as now part of the rotation and actually looks pretty good the last few games. It's closed out a game. So stuff like that. A lot of this still, the season is just so weird. It's hard to, I don't want to overreact to stuff. I don't want to read too far into it because I think part of this is, again, just trying to scrape by in the season with there's guys out every few nights. So we keep harping on consistency, but there's kind of been no consistency in the players' lives and schedules. So, it kind of does make sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess when I was saying, the consistency in the rotation and not worrying about the wins and losses and just the development. I mean, I guess kind of maybe that is what he's doing. That I think about it. I mean, he's trying to find the right rotations or the right, chemistry or something. So, DMPing a guy and then playing 20 minutes the next night, maybe he's just trying something else.
I guess. But you know what's still bothering me too about it all is the friggin' double bigs. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
The last game against Toronto, give me anything else. I'm so done with Tyson Thompson starting.
He is being pretty stubborn about that.
And finally, so last game we were going to lose to Toronto with half their team out to COVID and no coaches. We were losing at half, right? Down like 8, I want to say. Or I don't know. They were making every shot.
They look good.
It was bad. Second half, Tice did not play in the whole second half. He started Teague instead of Tice. We went small. And I hate how the announcers, Scal too, is like, oh, it's going small. Like this is the matchup. It's nice to go like it's some shift. No, every matchup, it's the right move to go small. It's never the right move to play 2 centers starting. It's just like we're putting ourselves in a hole every game voluntarily. It's too stubborn. I mean, we've been critical. I understand the reasons for it, but at a certain point, I just don't care. It's not effective. Or if you're going to do it later in the game if there's a good opportunity for it. But just to continue starting this unit is frustrating because I don't think it's leading to anything. And I get when Marcus gets back, that's the starting lineup. But then put someone in who more closely resembles Marcus's role so that guys are starting in the natural roles they'll be starting in when games do matter. Because it's getting to a point where it's just tough to watch and it's frustrating. It really is.
Starting Teague over Tyson second half is not going small. That's pretty much standard, I'd say. I mean, that's
for
like
the NBA,
more traditional lineup.
Yeah. Tatum's what, 6'10"? He can play the 4 in the NBA today. He's 6'10". He's a great defender. Brown's not too much shorter. We'll get by. I'm fairly confident. It's just driving me crazy. It clogs the paint. The spacing's not there. Like, and then again, he goes small, and they're like, "Oh, there's a good wrinkle to throw at him." It's like,
Yeah.
no, we're basically just admitting that going big was awful.
What a
So
genius.
I certainly hope that is Marcus officially back for Thursday night's game? Do we know yet?
I haven't heard.
I'm not sure either. He might take him another game. Either way, like he cannot get back soon enough, and then just please let that be the end of the two big starting lineup, because oh man, tough to watch. Anything else from from those games? I think another takeaway for me would have to be our boy. We've been ahead of us all year and before this year, but Robert Williams, it seems like kind of everyone else is starting to catch up with the Robert Williams hype and realizing like this guy has to play, including Brad. I think to an extent he has clearly been making an effort to play him more, and it just seems like the more he plays, the more good things happen. Again, he makes a mistake here and there, but like, players make mistakes. It's fine. He can play. Tatum and Brown make mistakes too. Brad doesn't, cut their minutes, like whatever. Just let the kid out there, let him free. I think we're all at that point. Like I said, the minutes have been up. The results keep going up. As the minutes go up, Tice, again, with a DMP in the second half last game, I'm not sure he should be the one who falls out of the rotation. But 2 more weeks to go before the trade deadline. I think with 8 games left, and then hopefully it'll be free Rob and the end of the double bigs forever, like a 2-for-1 special. Please let that happen.
Yeah. I mean, Robert Williams has basically forced Brad to play him more. I mean, at this point, you can't, you can't not play him.
It would be coaching malpractice
right.
to not eventually play this guy more than Tyson Thompson when he just always plays better when he's out on the floor. Like,
so obviously, that's not, that's not a hot take anymore. I mean, even the national media is on Robert Williams now. So
it's everyone's there.
I am happy to see Teague playing, at least average now. I don't bang my head against the wall when I see him come in the game. So
the thing is, he has to do so little to succeed. We need so little from him. Just be competent and do what you've always done.
Yeah, I mean, just don't make mistakes is all I'm really asking for.
Just don't immediately turn the ball over every time you touch it, which is what he was doing.
If he can just be Brad Wanamaker, then fine.
I know.
That's all I really care about.
Yearn for the days of Wanamaker.
I'd rather not notice you. And if I don't notice you, then you're probably playing good enough.
And frankly, he was playing actually well, especially in those last few games. He had some really good moments. So
he did.
I'll give Teague some credit. We had written him off, but hey, looks like he kept a good attitude, has been a good vet, as advertised. No reason to think he wouldn't be, but played his way back into the rotation. So good for him. And we talked shit about Teague, but again, that's all based on the way he was playing. If he's playing well, I'm happy to see him out there.
Don't dislike the guy. I just want him to play better.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw the last few games, I think, is what we were expecting when we signed.
And I'd say the same kind of goes for Tristan too. We've kind of hammered on both of them for most of the season, for rightfully so. But I feel like he's sort of playing in his role a little bit more now. Again, the less I notice him, the better. Probably have.
We want him to set screens and rebound. That's it. Yeah. And like we said, again, this is who Thompson was. Expecting him to be someone else for the Celtics makes no sense. The biggest frustrations with him, to me, are just that he's causing us to start 2 centers,
right?
And that he's taking away so many minutes from other guys who I want to play more. Like, if we didn't have Robert Williams and it was a normal center rotation between Thompson and Tyson, the thought of Robert Williams never existed, I'd be perfectly content with him.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, regardless, it's nice to see both of them playing a little better. Because I mean, it'll be nice. It's nice to have that depth. I mean, I hope they're not huge parts of the rotation come the end of the year in the playoffs, but regular season you need depth. And again, we've
mentioned that injury to Williams' knee, so maybe that's part of it, is that they're just scared that he can't make it through the whole season, and then we don't want to be stuck with one big. Right. Even though at that point you'd think I'd be fine seeing Grant Williams play backup center. So whatever, but maybe I don't know. It's hard getting into the mind of like, are we managing Williams for injury? Is it because he's still, they want him to be more mature? Are they trying to hide how good he is so he can re-sign him to a cheaper contract? Like, I don't know, but it's at the point
So
where
Belichickian.
you don't need to be like some advanced stat guy or any this and that. I don't even think I need to repeat his per 36 minutes at this point, because he just passes every test. If you know anything about basketball, you watch him play, you could tell this guy's really good and can get even better. So
he passes the casual fan test as well too, because he leaps through the roof,
right,
has big blocks. So you get the casuals free rob, and then you get the the guys like us who want a free rob. So I mean, he's got a big following now.
Yeah, but
obviously Doris has been on him for a while, so
the little stuff is starting to get there. He's bad. He can't defend a pick and roll. Okay, fine. He's learning. He's showing progress, and it's just like, we'll live with the growing pains like we do with every other guy. We're just treating him like he's such a project, and he's already really good when he's on the floor.
Yeah.
If it's not the hip, just let him free.
Agreed.
All right. So, any more takeaways from the games that we've seen Celtics wise, or should we dip into the All-Star break?
I'm ready to start the All-Star break, get into the second half.
Let's do it. So, the Celtics had 2 All-Stars, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, of course. Jaylen making All-Star for the first time. So it was nice. I was happy for him, especially with it in his hometown, Atlanta. And he deserved it, frankly. So it's even better. But, man, tough, crowded All-Star field. So many good All-Stars. It was tough to make the team. I was a little nervous, even though I felt confident and felt like he deserved it. But like I said, there was some good players who didn't make it. So no shame. And then Tatum, for the second straight year, was an All-Star reserve, got to start because of Durant's injury. Both guys played in the 3-point contest, which was kind of interesting. I'm not sure that would have been the case in a normal year, or if because of COVID, they were just picking guys out who were in the game, but they both have obviously had All-Star seasons, and they've both shot the ball well from 3, even though not quite as good than in February, but certainly deserving. They obviously did not win the 3-point contest. Tatum made the second round, but I think that's about it. And then as for the actual All-Star game, they both played a decent chunk. They scored 22 points for Brown, 21 for Tatum, as they're on opposite teams. Team LeBron with Jaylen Brown won, and he did not get the MVP, which is bullshit. No, but that was pretty much it. The couple plays where they actually guarded each other, Tatum and Brown, they kind of went one-on-one for one play, and Brown kind of blew by him a little bit, but it seemed like good D. Got called for the foul. I don't know what happened, but it was kind of fun, kind of cool, but also kind of like, wow, why are my friends fighting? So it's a little bit of that. What were your takeaways from the whole All-Star festivities, including, I guess, the All-Star draft, where Tatum was technically the last starter to be picked? Like, he just by default, it ended up being him, was put on Durant's team, which, I mean, again, he shouldn't have probably been a starter anyway, so really no shock or shame in that. And then Brown was picked about relatively early by LeBron for the reserves, at least in the middle of the pack, not one of the end guys. And LeBron, as he picked him, called him Jaylen Underappreciated Brown. So.
Yeah, I think he could have done a little better with that nickname, but
yeah, I don't know if that one's gonna stick.
Yeah, I don't think it's to stick. I don't know. I mean, who really cares about the draft?
No, not the draft. I kind of think it's interesting to see what players think of other players.
I do.
And I thought it was maybe more interesting than the draft too. In Chris Paul's interview before the game, Chris Paul said they asked what he liked about the All-Star game, and he said it's cool to be here with different guys who you don't know a lot, and it's kind of their first time, something like that. And he mentioned Jaylen by name, was the first guy he said to be in the locker room with a guy like Jaylen Brown. So just to show what guys think of him, obviously off the court, we all know about that, and his on the court game backing it up too. So cool in that sense.
Chris Paul is the president of the Players Association, right? And Jaylen Brown's on that whatever board.
Yeah, Jaylen is I think the vice president, wasn't he?
Yeah,
or he was. I don't know.
Like
Hard to keep track, but
wasn't Kyrie up for VP or something? Something scary like that.
Hard to follow all the politics of it.
But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see, I don't know. I wouldn't say drama of it, but I feel like you can kind of get a sense for, who people like and friends drafting friends and what, players really think about other players.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously Trae Young not being an all-star, I think that shows what a lot of, the other all-stars think about him. I mean, what was he
I
like?
think that's more the coaches.
Well, when we wasn't he ranked like pretty low on the players rankings?
But yeah, I guess, but they only vote for the start. I don't know. They only vote for starters. So yeah, I mean, he got kind of disrespected. But again, if you look at the East guards, it's kind of stacked, and it's all now Irving and Harden and guys that the vets really like. So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tatum being the last starter pick, that's probably fair.
Yeah, and it wasn't even really the last pick because I think since Durant was injured and LeBron had last pick.
Oh yeah,
he got first pick. The last two, Beal and Tatum, automatically went to Durant. So again, not a big. So I wouldn't call that like any disrespect or anything like that.
Not at all. Brown did go earlier than expected. I was worried he'd be Mr. Irrelevant, but I'd like to see him. I mean, team building. LeBron knows how to build a roster, so that was a good call by him. It was cool seeing Tatum and Beal play together, be on the same team. Obviously, they were all
that was fun,
jazzed up about it. Probably
recruiting trip.
Yeah, probably way overblown.
The pictures of their kids together, not overblown.
No.
Once I saw the pictures of the kids, I was like, all right, let's go. Come on, Brad.
Right. So I don't know. That was fun. I mean, at least it was a nice little storyline. Gave us something to talk about for a week. But
definitely,
I don't know. All-Star break was the All-Star break. Game was how it usually is. A lot of scoring, not a lot of defense, and a little bit of drama at the end. That new fourth quarter format seems to be working.
Love the Elam ending.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's a 20-point game. There's no drama, and instead you have Dame and Curry going back trying to be heroes and hit a half-court walk-off shot, and you get Dame kind of stepping up, rising to the top of like the star of stars in the last moment. I think he scored the last 11 points and hits a walk-off half-court shot. Yeah. So hey, you don't get anything like that without the Elam ending. So
he had something to prove. You not being a starter, right?
Yeah, not being a starter.
He probably wasn't happy about that.
No, yeah, well, of course he's not happy. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And again, how much of that is just everyone voting for Luka? I mean, it's Luka, Curry, and Dame. It's probably the three best guards in the NBA in the first half. So, but yeah, that was cool to see on a non-Celtic note. That was definitely the coolest part of the game overall. Yeah, the Celtics stuff. I thought it was cool that Jalen and Tatum seem so kind of like they just fit in so well when they're all with all stars, no pun intended, but you kind of never know. And I get a little nervous going out there. They're like, oh, like they're my own guys. And especially Jalen being there for his first time, like you want him to go out and be himself and look like he belongs. And he was actually a little more aggressive than I thought he'd be. He came in and just started firing, and he obviously hit I think he hit 5 threes. He hit that turnaround fadeaway 3 in the corner. He pulled up from almost half court at one point and was like joking around with Steph about it. So just seeing those guys that, now they are kind of in that elite group of stars and they fit right in and they belong and they're going to be there for a while. So kind of cool to see. And for better or worse, these things kind of become like recruiting trips in a sense. So to see that we got two guys who are right in the mix of it, it's hard to say that's not a good thing for the organization going forward.
Yeah, I was a little worried Jalen was going to be, at the end of the bench by himself, and people are going to leave him hanging on high fives, and he was going to be, eating lunch alone. But no, this is nice, and the whole.
So I'm reading into it a little too much, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was nice seeing them on. It was fun seeing them on opposite teams and guarding each other because I feel like it was like a camaraderie builder almost. I feel like because I mean they're obviously friends and they get along, but they've always been more like they've always struck me more as like coworkers in a sense where they're friends, but they pretty much it's the job. But this time it kind of felt like they were buddies. They were kind of playing off on each other and having a good time, getting a laugh in. So that was nice to see. Even if it's something small, but seeing them both, having them both be there, realizing that they're both all stars, and realizing now it's we gotta grow up. We're some of the best players in the league. It's time for us to start acting like it. And taking over. So I mean, I think we know it's it's probably a little overblown, but I think there's a little bit of that, anyways.
No, I think it matters. It matters some. I'm probably overreacting a little, but it does matter. And like you said, that Tatum, I know he was not voted as a starter. He was just replacing Durant, but still starting in the All-Star game, that's a big deal. And you saw Zion get kind of prompted into starting for Embiid with the COVID issue, and Zion, I don't know if it was nerves or what, but he couldn't make a dunk. He looked a little. He, for example, did not look like he belonged. And
right.
he's 20 years old. He'll be back, so not a big deal. But that was interesting, and again, just nice to see our guys looking good out there. So that was promising, and I think more important probably than anything else, knock on wood, but it seems like they've made it out of the whole situation unscathed, as far as we know. Watch, they'll test positive for COVID 20 minutes after we tape, but they're not injured. And last year, I think we're all kind of scarred by the memory of that Kemba playing in that Elam ending for, I don't know, way too long on a bad knee, and then seemingly paying the price for it still, frankly. So I think we're all a little scarred and a little nervous, but it seems like, again, knock on wood, we've escaped without any further issues. So I think that's enough all-star talk for everyone.
You don't want to touch on the 3-point contest?
Well, I mean, I kind of did quickly. I don't know if you have anything else to say. It was, I don't know. They're great players.
Yeah.
They're probably not the best choices for the 3-point contest. They could certainly bury threes and get hot, but they're not really that kind of catch and shoot guys, or pick up the ball and shoot guys, whatever you call that.
As long as they had fun.
They did. And Tatum put up a nice showing in the first round, but again, it's Steph Curry and Jaylen Brown is like not really a fair match in a 3-point contest. But again, it just speaks to how far Jaylen has come in his growth. Because I think in his rookie year, if you told people, hey, in 5 years, Jaylen Brown's going to be in a 3-point contest, they would have laughed at you.
It's probably, 2 years ago, I would have laughed.
Yeah, well, not even. But again, just to show the growth and the commitment he's made to improving every part of his game is, it's nice to see him get to enjoy that moment. Hopefully he did enjoy it. He's a competitive guy, so maybe not, but he didn't embarrass himself.
No, that's all that really matters.
All right. Yeah, exactly. Just have fun. Don't embarrass yourself. Most importantly, don't get hurt. So I think that's 3 for 3. All right. Moving on. Let's kind of quickly recap the whole first half. I'm going to give out Chud's report card, my grade for every Celtics player who's played, the coach, and the GM. So, Nick, where do you want to start?
Let's start at the top, I guess. So let's go Danny on the way down.
Oh, so you want to start with Danny, the GM?
Yeah, I'm saying start at the top. Danny.
Oh, the
Brad,
top of the
top of the food chain.
Wick. What about Wick? No.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give Danny a C-.
Okay.
So it's easy to get mad and want to give him an F, but again, you have to remember Tatum and Brown are on the team, and those are Danny's prizes, and they are both really good. They both made the All-Star game, so that alone gets him to about the C area. Because hey, people like to point to Danny's draft record, not to do this whole bit again, and say that he's never done anything. The Brown and Tatum picks were both so far from a sure thing, and people just gloss them over. Oh, well, yeah, it's easy to nail a top 3 pick, whatever. Like, no, it's not easy to absolutely dominate the draft from those positions. Trading out of the 1 spot when Fultz was a unanimous 1 for Tatum was so far from a sure thing. It's not funny. And same thing with Jaylen Brown. Those are both kind of contrary moves, and they've both proven to clearly be the moves that were the right moves and will more or less define this franchise for probably over a decade. So
the people that say that, it's easy nailing a top 3 pick.
Yeah, right. Tell that to Sacramento or Atlanta.
Look at the 2 picks ahead of Tatum. I mean, I wouldn't say they were major hits. I mean, Lonzo's fine, and Fultz, we all know what happened there. But
just the fact alone that Jaylen, Ingram, and Ben Simmons, that draft class is the first draft class only the second ever and the first since the 90s where the first 3 picks have ever made an all-star game in the same draft.
Yeah.
So that stat alone tells you every single year, almost without fail, one of the first 3 picks is never even going to make an all-star game.
Right.
So there you go. And I mean, a lot of times it's not even 2 of them. So that's my defense of Danny not getting a worse grade. Almost everything else has looked pretty underwhelming. So again, I tried not to be too harsh on anyone because of all the COVID stuff and everything else that everyone's dealing with. And the fact that the season's not over. This is more of a check-in with the teacher. And Mr. Ben is giving a C-, a low 70, with a hope that there's still a lot of time left. And with a couple moves here, getting healthy and the team looking better, Danny can certainly still make honor roll by the end of the year. But he's not really coasting along at the top of the class like he has been for a while, I guess.
I certainly don't see honor roll, but I don't know.
Well, by the end of this season, no
chance. I mean, is he going to score 120 on the next,
all right,
next 5 tests?
Yeah, maybe honor roll is a stretch, but I was thinking he can get up to the low B at least.
All right, yeah.
Something in the B range.
Sure, B's. I don't know what honor roll is anymore, so
I guess that's fair. I don't even either.
I'm surprised they still give kids grades. I mean,
I don't.
Feelings hurt, But yeah, I don't know. C-, I guess, is fair, only because we haven't gotten through trade deadline. I mean, I guess it's to this point we're saying is C-. Right. But obviously, end of the year, like you said, they could be much better depending on if anything
let's put it
happens.
this way: if the season keeps going this exactly the way it is, and we have the same second half as we did the first half, basically, then he's looking at a failing grade,
right?
For sure. But at this point, it's easy. Not easy, but there's enough reason to kind of building excuses that will start to go away at the end of the year. But it's to put it in perspective of a classroom, it's like the Tatum Brown picks and how they're looking this year are 2 A+, like on major tests that he nailed. And then on all the other kind of minor graded classwork, he's just mailing it in.
That's more of a career grade though. I mean, if we're just talking this season.
Well, right. I mean, he didn't do anything. If you're grading only, I guess, his work in this season, but that's what I did for everyone else. But I don't know. For the GM, it's kind of hard to do that. So what, you want to grade just his draft picks and
the GM is more
free agency acquisitions or non-moves?
Yeah.
I don't know. Then maybe I guess it's still around the same point. Thompson and Teague aren't looking good, signings, but I don't think there were a lot of better options. Neesmith maybe not looking like a great draft pick, certainly not in terms of helping us in the first half of the season. We could have drafted a lot better players, so that looks bad. But Pritchard at 26 helped a lot, and we really needed him, so that looks good and kind of balances out to me.
Yeah, and draft was average, I'd say. TBD. Off season, like you said, those moves looked like they could be, diamonds in the rough at the time. I don't think they were on anyone's radar, really, at the time.
No, I mean, in retrospect, swapping Cantor in the pick that became Desmond Bain for basically what? Thompson? That doesn't look very good at all. No. So, but again, at the time, no one wanted to keep Cantor. And so, I don't know. It's tough. And the Teague was such a minimum contract.
I mean, Teague was a low risk. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
But
again, Danny's grade as much as anyone's is probably incomplete at this point.
Yeah. So whatever. C-. I can co-sign that.
All right.
Let's. What do you have for Brad? My boy.
So, I gave Bradley a C+, which might seem generous, but again, is using what he has to work with. He's had some good moments. The last few nights, the games were encouraging. And a C+, that's a bad grade for him. He's a nerd. He's an honor roll nerd. So he's not happy with the C+. I think that's more of a reflection of disappointment for how he's done. But at the same time, I look around the NBA and there's just a lot of bad coaches. So it's hard for me to get too upset. I think another guy who I don't want to judge him too harshly because the main work for him is obviously still to come, and we'll see how he's coaching when he has a full deck of cards, and how much of this is just trying to manage this weird COVID season.
Yeah. I mean, you know how I've been critical of Brad. And I mean, saying that he's working with what he's got, I mean, that's kind of been Brad's thing. I mean, since he's been in the NBA, working with what he's got has been his strength.
Yeah.
I mean, to give him a break for working with what he's got and, not performing, I don't know if that's exactly fair. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think this
right.
compared to his whole, compared to like his career, this is probably one of the better rosters he's had. Like maybe minus, Irving and Hayward or
which
Horford.
arguably was his worst coaching job.
Right.
So
right. So,
again, how much of that has to do with him? Up
exactly.
for debate and unclear. But
so I think obviously there's a lot of room for improvement for Brad. We've always been concerned about the rotation, what he's doing with the double bigs and blah blah blah. So I mean, if he's serious about not caring about wins and losses, then clearly he has unreal job security.
well,
number one,
he does.
Yeah. So, and number two, then then let's see how this pays off. I mean, if you're really concerned about developing the team and seeing how what we can do for the second half and trying to build some sort of chemistry and rotation that you're confident in going into the end of the season, the playoffs, then let's see that pan out. I mean,
exactly.
If we play great,
that's all that really matters.
Right. So if we play great second half, it looks like it's partially due to what he's been doing the first half, building out this,
right, exactly,
finding out who's playing what minutes, then
right,
whatever. But
that's why I didn't want to give him too low of a grade, because again, a lot of the criticism early in the season might end up looking dumb. To put things in perspective again, we're still, even with all of these kind of sky is falling moments and how disappointing this season has seemed, at the halfway point, we are the 4 seed in the East. It's only the Bucks, Nets, and Sixers ahead of us. 3 really good teams. And again, we're 5 games out of first. Like, if we finish with the top 4 seed and are looking good going into the playoffs, then all of this kind of shittiness really doesn't matter and will pretty quickly go away if we're gearing up for a playoff run looking good as a top 4 seed. No?
Yeah, I mean, the key phrase is looking good. I mean,
sure.
Even to this point, we're in 4th place. That's great.
Well, no, I'm not saying we are looking good right now. I'm just saying, I'm more saying as a result of the standings, we haven't like crippled ourselves. Normally, if we had started this bad, and as you're saying, 15 and 17 at one point in some years, we could be out of the playoffs looking at, we're in 10th place. Like, holy shit, we got to do something. But it's like, as bad as things have gone for us, it's been going around the league. Bad things are happening to almost every team. We're still in a fine position, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's
nothing's really been lost despite all this stuff. We're not going to get the 1 seed, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, I understand, but I mean, I'm just saying I'm not the type of person that's looking at standings and be like, oh, well, we're in 4th place, so everything's fine. But in reality,
no. But I'm just
the eye test. We're not passing the eye test.
We're not passing the eye test, and that's not what I was saying. I was more saying.
I know. I'm just trying to clarify.
We're treading water fine. Like, we haven't really lost anything as a result of this play that we can't easily still salvage.
Right. No, I agree.
All right, should we move on to the actual guys playing basketball?
Oh yeah, let's do that. So I mean, if we're just going, top to bottom, as far as minutes played, I guess that would start us off with Jason Tatum.
Sure. Tatum, I gave a B+ because I think he's been really good. He's taken a lot of steps forward. He's kind of delivered what you would want from him. He also had COVID. It missed a bunch of games. It clearly affected him. So it's taken him some time to get back, and he hasn't looked great. He's in quite a shooting slump at times, but I think for the most part, everything I've seen from Tatum has solidified that, he's the guy for this team for a long time to go. So I think a very solid B+. He's been a rock and still with room for improvement. The B+ speaks more to how amazing I still think he can be, and that he still can improve in a lot of areas, but he still has played really well.
Yeah, you can't give him an A. I mean, obviously, technically, an all-star starter, but I think making the all-star game is expected from him now.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's the type of player that's going to start turning into a perennial all-star. So I think
he already is. I wouldn't even say he's looking like it. He already is.
I mean,
that player. If he never improved for the rest of his career, he's a perennial all-star.
Right. So I mean, that's we don't really put that factor into play really much. Just watching him play though, he looks like maybe he's marginally better than last year. He's still working on his game every year. He's gonna still get better. I still think, was he averaging 24 something, 25 really? I think he's a better scorer than that. I mean, I think we've seen it. He's obviously he can put up 30 to 40, no problem. It's just I don't know. I mean, he'll go through.
Well, he can be, and again, he missed some games. He's been happy to kind of cede opportunity, I think, to Brown and to Kemba, since Kemba's come back too. So I'm not concerned, I wouldn't say, with scoring numbers so much. It's from him. I'm seeing the things I want to see. I still want to see him get better at drawing fouls. It seems like he has that one move where he kind of gets in the post on anyone smaller, and he can do that massive kind of power step into the lane as he rips the ball through. And it seems like that's either he goes up for an uncontested dunk or he gets fouled every single time. So stuff like that. I think he has already gotten a lot more aggressive than people thought. I think in that first week we were talking about how he was settling for step backs at the end of the game, but he's been good about getting to the hoop, and those closing minutes. He's gotten pretty damn good at that. I think he's become one of the more reliable guys in the league for kind of clutch moments that you can just throw the ball to and count on him, which has been really promising. But I think in the overall scheme of the game, he can get to the line more. It seems like the 3-point attempts have been down in recent games, which I don't like, because it seems like he can kind of pop that sidestep three anytime he wants, and those pull-up threes when he's in rhythm. So the percentages and the attempts have dipped. I'd like to see that pick up. And there's still better shot selection I think he can have in general, cutting out kind of the mid-range that he still falls in love with, and he's so damn good at it, but he just doesn't need it sometimes. And then he's come a long way as a creator. He can make really, really good plays for teammates, but there's still, I think, another step to take before he's one of those elite guys who can just kind of control every aspect of the game. And he's showed signs of it, and again, he's come really far, and I love the growth, but the saying that there's room to improve, like I said, speaks to how amazing he is and how amazing I think he can be. So I think a B+ is a very fair grade all around.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. And, the shot taking, like we said, sometimes he settles for, these tough shots, and he makes them. When he's making them, it's like, looks like a great move, but
right. And that one contested fadeaway long two he made against the Raptors was like just an really absurd shot where it's like there's no need to take it at all. It's one of probably the lowest percentage shots on a basketball court you can take in the year 2021. But of course he buried it. So
what I most encouraged from Tatum is the way he's closing out games. We've seen it here and there when he's given the opportunity, but the last stretch of games where where it's tight down this late in the fourth, he's hitting shots consistently. He's taken seemingly, for the most part, good looks. He'll take it to the basket. He'll take a mid-range, take a three, whatever you need him to do, he'll take it, and he's making it consistently. So that's huge. If he can be, a real true closer, then that's really, the next level for him, I think. I mean, because the rest of it, I think is going to come.
And I think he's pretty much there. I mean, I'm not saying he's maybe a top 10 guy in the league closer that you'd want the ball in his hands in that situation, but he's definitely climbing the list, and he's not too far off the top 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is like he can get any shot he wants, really. And I mean,
Yeah.
even if it's, he can get a shot off that's has a pretty good chance of going in under any circumstance. I mean, whether it's 10 feet
Mhm.
behind the three, whether it's one of those ridiculous turnaround mid range. I mean, no shot. He doesn't take a shot that doesn't have a chance to go in, really. Um, I mean, that's I guess what you're really looking for in a closer, other than the
Yeah.
fact that you make them. So that's
Which
that's
he
exciting.
does. So
Yeah.
yeah. No, and then I think that's a more important takeaway than the scoring numbers you mentioned, where it's almost like he's fine with not being the top scorer. He's been letting, he and Brown have been going back and forth with scoring, whatever. But it's like he doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if Kemba has the most points, the most shots, this and that. He's the guy in the end of the game, and that's been Kemba's been that guy his whole career. So it's interesting to see kind of the transfer of power. But at this point, it's like very clear it has to be Tatum, and he's taken on that role and thrived. And I look forward to more of it.
So let's get to Jaylen Brown on that segue. Obviously, we've seen great things out of him this year, first time All Star. So, what are you going with for a grade?
Yeah, Jaylen, I gave an A-, which could probably argue that he could have got the straight A with room to spare for an A+. I took away a little just because it seems like he was getting tired, slowing down a bit before that stretch before the All-Star game, and wasn't playing his best. And so I don't want to say it's a step back, but he hasn't quite brought it on the defensive end the same way that he has on the offensive end. And I still get frustrated with him a lot on his off ball defense. It seems like when he's on a guy and it's kind of his task to shut him down, he really rises to the occasion. He's can lock down guys, which is awesome. But that makes it almost more frustrating, where it seems like he still will kind of fall asleep at times or just miss a rotation, looks lost. Stuff like that is really probably the only thing for me that knocked him from an A to an A-, because now I can jump to all the positive stuff, which has been pretty much everything else. The clear step he's taken in every single aspect of his offensive game. We've probably spent more time in the history of this podcast gushing about Jaylen's performance this season than possibly anything else. So I don't really need to redo it. He's been just awesome at everything. Taken the leap, as he has every year. He's taken a leap, and this year to take one of the hardest leaps from really good to all-star, which he's earned. And for much of the season, he was the best player on the team, most consistent player. He was there the most, and he straight up performed. He earned every bit of that all-star spot. So A-, and that might even be a little harsh.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I like to say it's really, really hard to get an A. So giving an A-, that leaves a little bit of room for improvement. And I mean, he's obviously taken a step this year, but I mean, he was pretty much playing like this, in the bubble for the most part. So I mean, I guess it's kind of unfair because it was basically an off-season leap. He took pre-bubble and then just carried over to this year.
But I think just the consistency too.
Oh yeah, the consistency has been, the biggest part of it. And then, the efficiency. And he's lost a little bit of that. Maybe he is getting tired. So hopefully this All-Star break will.
And the knee tendonitis is a real thing. So
we'll see what happens there. But A- is fair. I mean, he's definitely in the A's. I mean, first time All-Star, has very deserving All-Star. Probably, I mean, you could argue he's been our best player the first half of the year.
I don't even know overall, if it's much of an argument, really.
Yeah, I know. So it's hard to not, at least get an A-, but I think that's fair.
Yeah. I think kind of the biggest question with Jaylen at this point is at what point will he kind of start to stagnate at least a little? Like, is he going to make another jump next year to like all NBA status? Where is the ceiling at this point? Because he's already probably smashed through what most people thought it was, and he just shows no signs of slowing down. He's such a hard worker, and it seems dumb to bet against him at this point. He's still only 24, 25 years old. Like, there's no reason to believe he can't kind of take more jumps. So it sounds crazy. It would have sounded crazy at least not long ago to even suggest it. But do you think there's another leap he can make to like a true superstar who gets his name into the conversation for a top 10 or whatever player in the league? Is that ceiling there now at this point? I think that's fair to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to ask, and I'm not the right person to ask because I never thought Jalen could be this good.
Well, who did other than him?
Right, exactly. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not the right person to ask, but I think
It feels weird to ask.
Yeah, the thing,
But
like,
I
I
think
mean,
it's
he's
a fair question.
the way he's been developing. Where his game's at right now. I'm not really sure what the next level is for him. Maybe, passing. I don't know. It's just I don't know how much further he can, how much better he can get at the things he's good at right now, just from considering how far he's come. If that makes any sense. So I don't know. I mean, there's obviously things he can do. He can get better at. You can always get better at something, but like, what's he gonna do? Like, he can't get much more efficient from shooting. He can't get, I don't know. I just don't know what he can really improve upon significantly to get him in that top 10 category. But
I think playmaking is probably the next step.
Yeah, I mean, playmaking I think is always the next step.
With it seems like he's on a similar track to Tatum. Tatum's just a little ahead of his trajectory. So if Tatum has jumped a little more in that playmaking bit this year, and kind of like you said, the reliability and the guy who looks like he can kind of control and take over the game, where Brown really just shows it in like flashes. So I think that's the next step. And then if we have two guys like that, forget it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we'll see. I mean, I think it's safe to say that Jalen's, I don't know, already top 20, right? I mean, just considering, that he was an all-star.
2025 is worst, but
so, I mean,
really good.
Yeah. I mean, that's better than I probably ever thought he would be anyway.
Right.
So, I mean,
getting
into the top 25 is a huge win. So yeah, I mean, it's been a great year for him, and I'm excited to see what comes next. So that brings us to Marcus Smart. I'm very excited to see what your grade is for this one.
Well, it's tough to grade Marcus because he's missed 18 games now. That's half of the season, I think. So I gave him a B because I think when he played, he was about what we'd expect from Marcus. He wasn't amazing by his standards, but he's really good, and he's what we've come to expect. So just a solid B. And he missed a ton of time, which I could knock him for, but I think we've all almost realized his value even more while he's been out. So it was hard to drop him for missing time with an injury. I gave him a B. I don't know. Not a lot to say at Marcus about this point, other than I just really miss him and need him back in my life in a more prominent way.
Yeah, I mean, we all want him back. It's been average. It's been an average Marcus Smart year. This is what he does.
Pretty much. Which is good.
When he was healthy.
Really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, Marcus is Marcus is Marcus. This is who he's gonna be. I don't know if he has the next level. He'll still keep getting better, but I mean, this is what he does. He's a really good defender, versatile defender, improving his 3-point shooting, shot making. I like it when he goes with the hoop. I like his mid range. Great, really good passer. Sets up the offense. He's turned into like a real, point guard. A good, modern day point guard, I would say.
Well, has turned into or has finally gotten the opportunity to be.
Yeah. I mean, he's proven that.
No, I know.
That's what he is.
But yeah. No.
So
this is playmaking. Was leading the team in assists. Yeah.
So yeah, he's been who he is. Hasn't been worse. Hasn't been better. He's a B is fair. And then I guess so. Kemba Walker would be next on minutes per game if that's how we're going down the list.
Yeah.
Now he's up to 30 minutes per game. When did that happen?
Well, I mean, sitting out back-to-backs is obviously helping.
I guess, but I feel like he's been playing 20.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the last stretch of games he's really started to stretch it out a little. Obviously he has, because the numbers don't lie.
Right.
I gave Kemba a C+. Again, it was easy to be like reactionary and give him a really bad grade, but the guy had knee surgery. He's still coming back. He's getting his legs under him. He's getting his confidence, his rhythm, learning to play with these guys who are, Tatum and Brown having awesome years. He doesn't want to step on their toes. So really, really, really hard situation. The lows have been bad and looked really low. The highs, especially more recently, as it seems like with a lot of these games, he has the right amount of rest. He's looked a lot better. And overall, as we've said, I think physically he looks mostly there, most of the way back. He's able to get to his spots for the most part and get his shots and can still get in the lane and get a bucket when we need it. So recent returns have been much more promising and kind of dragged that grade up from probably what was like a stagnant D and for disappointing, but is steadily climbing to a C+. And hopefully this is all kind of part of the plan as he's rounding back into all-star Kemba form that we will certainly need if we want to get back to being some semblance of a contender.
So would you land on C+?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe even go a little bit higher for Kemba. And it's mostly just because of, what he's had to work with as far as, the rehab. I'm not one to, give people breaks and players and coaches benefit of the doubt, but I mean, I guess he didn't really have any opportunity to practice the first half of the year before he came back. And I know, some people would say practice is, not that important, but I mean, I don't think anyone thinks it's not important, but undervalue practice.
Well, yeah.
And it's not as much just, playing with each other and, that aspect of practice. It's just like getting into a flow and getting, into game shape and,
right.
Because I mean, shooting threes, in an empty gym is not the same as shooting threes with the guy on your face with 9 other people on the court.
Well, yeah, and just the speed, like you said too, going from not playing at all,
to
jumping right into NBA games is really challenging.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously he wasn't hitting shots and finishing shots for a good portion of those games, but he looked like a healthy version of Kemba pretty much straight from the beginning. But
there was reason for optimism.
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't making shots and finishing at the rim. So yeah. I mean, people are saying, is he still hurt? Is he this? It's like, well, he doesn't look hurt. He's just not hitting shots. And I mean, I know his size and health is a concern. But I mean, if you're a guy that can hit shots, it doesn't matter. You should be able to hit shots, your whole life, really.
Sure. And it looked like he was getting good looks and looks that we're so used to him hitting. So it's like, if he's not back to 100%, you wouldn't think it would show up in just missing good looks. Yeah. So that was the part that was a little, I guess, discouraging. But again, kind of, it is what it is. The rest looked pretty good.
We were never concerned on this show.
Not super concerned, but I think it goes back to the conversation we were kind of having with Brad, how we were talking about how much the results matter, where when Kemba's having some of these awful shooting nights, you see people saying like, well, how the hell can Brad leave him in the game? He shouldn't close with Kemba if he's having this bad of a game. But again, how much are you focusing on that result versus like, I think we all know if the Celtics have any chance, it's going to be with Kemba playing well and certainly playing in crunch time. So I don't know, to like bench him in a situation with this where it's like, I think we got to get him back into these situations. And he might have some rocky moments, which he has, but I think that's more of, like we said, kind of playing the long game. And that gives us the best chance of getting back to reaching our ceiling by the playoffs, which putting in Peyton Pritchard for Kemba because Kemba's having an off night is probably not something that's like going to get us to where we want to be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if Kemba's not, at least if he's not 90% of what he was, then we have no shot of going anywhere. So we need him. We need Kemba. If we don't have Kemba, then we might as well just, shut everybody down and
Yeah.
Go for a high lotto pick. Okay, so then that brings us to Daniel Tice. What do you got?
Tice, I gave a B minus. I think he's been pretty solid. Showed, that he's the player we thought he was, a good player. Most of the bad Tice stuff is kind of what I said before, that it's just the role. I mean, he's playing power forward. He should be a center. He should be playing center. He has good playing with our best guys in our best lineup. He's always been good. That's still been the case this year when he's at center. I've been pleased with what he gives. He's shot the ball well for the most part, a little bit of a slump lately, but still like 37% three for the year. You'll certainly take that out of him. I think he's just been really solid, which is what we've come to expect out of Tice. So again, the worst parts about Tice have been that it's really hard for him to find minutes at his best position, center, on this team. So that is essentially what dragged him down to a B minus for me. He hasn't made like huge improvements either that would vault him up. And as we've talked about, he might just end up kind of being the odd man out. Like I said, the DNP the other night, I don't think that's fair to him. He's good, but yeah, fit and roll is kind of the toughest thing for him.
Yeah. I would even go with a B. I
B
don't
minus is
think,
probably harsh because none of the stuff that's been wrong is really his fault.
Yeah, because that's part of it. But I'm not expecting Tice to like develop any more than what he is really. I think he probably is what he is too. Kind of like what we were saying with Marcus. We know what to expect. This is what we're going to get out of him. I think it's more of just how he's been playing and maybe the confidence, which I have seen more of. I remember back at the like the Toronto series, I think it was in the bubble. He was gun shy when he was. They were leaving him open behind the three, which is usually he's a decent 3-point shooter. Mm-hmm. He was just gun shy, and you can't be gun shy even if you're not hitting at a high rate. He's got to be a stretch five.
Right.
That's what he is, I think, at his best.
Well, yeah, and I think that just becomes more pronounced when he's at power forward and you've got another guy out there, whether it's Thompson or Williams, who's already not a shooter.
Yeah.
So then it gets magnified if Tice isn't going to shoot. Then you got two non-shooters. Like, what are we doing? So, yeah, I agree. When he's the 5 and he's stretching the floor, that 37% three is awesome. Mm-hmm. When it's at 4, not so much. So, and again, if it's crunch time and a team is daring him to shoot, I still don't love the idea of Tice just chucking up a bunch of threes in the last few minutes of a close game. Yeah, the stats say he should shoot them and he kind of has to, but I'm not super confident in him,
I prefer that's not the look we get, but he's got to, if you're wide open.
Which I think is more my way of saying that as this all plays out, we really need Robert Williams to be the guy. And that was another thing where we talked about Rob earlier. Now he's pushed his way in, but it seems like he's finally asserted kind of the crunch time role. As I think it was the last game or one of the last 2 games, he played basically the last 14 minutes of the game, minus kind of situational subs for fouling and defense and whatever. But he was the guy. He closed. I think that's at least going to continue, and that's kind of it. Rob is a guy. He'll stay down in that dunker spot. He'll run around setting screens. He'll roll hard, be a rim runner, and you can't leave him because you give him a little daylight and they can just toss up a pass and he's going to slam it down. So I guess I kind of feel better as him, as Rob being the center, who's probably kind of like the guy not involved maybe in touching the ball, as then if it ends up Tice, who's kind of frozen out in a corner or something. So I think that's just kind of a limitation on his game. I don't think he's ever going to be like a 40-something% sniper from 3.
No, I agree. I've been encouraged by his efficiency.
Yeah, it's great for the regular season, and it's even great in the playoffs, and it's the role. I just, again, I hope we don't have to kind of live and die by Tice threes.
No. I think he's a perfect, backup center. I'd say. He's obviously he can be a starter, but in our ideal, I think in our optimal lineup, it's Robert Williams at center. Mm-hmm. The starter, the finisher, and then Tice comes in and he's just stretch 5 off the bench. I think that's his role ultimately.
Yeah, I hope so.
And he's a solid defender. He can block shots. I know he's not very tall, but neither is Robert Williams. So Yeah, so I think it'd be minus.
Tice is a really good rim protector for his size. Like,
I know.
very above
Yes.
average. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so let's get to Tristan Thompson. We've talked a lot about Tristan this year. We talked about him a little today. He's kind of I don't know if he's tough to grade, just considering, he's played better the last few days. So I don't know if it's going to be a little bit of recency bias, but what do you got with Tristan?
Well, I think, like you said, Tristan is Tristan. It's just rock solid. You get what you get. That's what it is. And so I just gave him a solid C. He hasn't exceeded expectations, and I would say he hasn't not lived up to expectations. He's just met the expectation I have for Tristan Thompson. Hard to be frustrated when you know what you're going to get, and he's works his ass off. He slams people around on screens. I would love to see Rob kind of watch more Tristan screening and get to that level of screen setting, which I don't know if he ever will, because Tristan's just so much bigger, but he sets good screens. He crashes the boards hard. It's not sexy. He is super slow, terrible hands, can't make a bunny, can barely even get up to dunk anymore. But he's Tristan Thompson. He's solid. He just got a solid C. Our other two centers, I would rather play. So again, the biggest issue with Tristan, I keep saying, is just the minutes he's taking at center from other guys.
Yeah, C- for me. Because I think, like you said, I think some people expected more out of him for whatever reason. Even at, I wouldn't say he's a shell of himself. He still pretty much does the things he's always done. Maybe lost a little bit just because, he is getting older, but this is who he is. And the way he played for most of the season,
it took him a while to get going.
It took him a while to get going. And, even when he was pulling down offensive rebounds, and he was, chucking them back up at the shot block.
Yeah, how many of those were his own misses?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of them were his own misses. So a lot of it was empty stats. And, I like when he's playing his optimal game, I think he's good for this team. He's a good player, and he has a role in the NBA. But
definitely
he hasn't done that.
The biggest problem we keep saying, but it's just 3 centers in the NBA in 2021 is not really tenable. And they're all kind of deserving of minutes. That's the biggest problem, is that you can't really just ice out any of them.
Right. So yeah, I don't think
it's tough.
I think C- is fair. There's not really much to say about Tristan. He's been in the league long enough that we know what he is. So this is an interesting one. Let's get to Peyton Pritchard.
Peyton Pritchard, I gave a straight up A, because he's the 26th pick in the draft, a rookie who got no training camp, summer league, etc., and was almost unanimously mocked by Celtics fans and otherwise on draft night. He has stepped right in from almost the go and been one of our best players and most reliable and most important. And I shudder to think where the Celtics would be without Peyton Pritchard, frankly. So, just grading on the scale of kind of expectation versus everything else, he was kind of the easiest. I think he's the only guy I gave a straight A to, not to spoil the rest. But to me, I just I'm not sure what more he really could have shown you in that first half of the season / his NBA career. For a guy who wasn't even a lottery pick, even close to a lottery pick, barely a first round pick.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like giving out A's.
He can play better. That's the thing, but it seems unfair to hold him to that standard.
No, I know. And maybe he was just undervalued. He was
clearly.
He was NBA ready.
Not by this podcast, for the record.
Right. He was NBA ready coming out. He was a 4-year player. How old is he?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Obviously that's kind of was part of the logic in drafting him. I think that you were getting an NBA ready guy, but at the same time, I think when we did our draft preview and I said Peyton Pritchard's a sleeper, And then when the Celtics picked him, and if you recall, my bold prediction after the draft was that Pritchard would surpass Teague as the backup point guard. And I think that raised a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah.
But it happened even quicker than I thought. So
yeah, I mean, I think he's obviously played great. Hasn't really seemed to skip a beat coming back from the injury. Maybe took a couple games to get back home, but I mean, he's been rock solid. And I mean, I think we kind of knew he was going to have sort of a mature game, just from the way he played in college. But the thing I didn't really see was he's got range. I mean, I knew he could shoot threes, but like he's shooting deep threes consistently with confidence.
Sometimes off the dribble, step backs, like
right. I mean,
no
he's shooting 40% from three. I mean, that's pretty good.
And he's not just a guy, and he's not just standing in the corner shooting open looks.
Exactly. Yeah, and he's he's confident taking the ball, taking it into the amongst the trees. He's been solid finisher. I mean, he doesn't get to the line much, but he's been great free throw shooter. Good. Moving the ball around, unselfish for the most part. I mean, he's been good. He's been probably as good as he could have been, I'd say, this year. I guess maybe that means an A. I don't know.
It's hard to look around the league and find many rookies, I think, who are making like more of an impact on winning.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So for a guy taking 26, that's
So I'm not gonna argue with an A, but we're Pritchard guys. Okay, Shemi. He's next on the list. 19 minutes per game. That's pretty good overall. All right. So what do you got? What do you think about Shemi?
I gave Shemi a solid B. I gave him a solid B because I wanted to give him a higher grade, but it still feels like there's certain things that just I'm not sure he can really reach higher. So we've talked a lot about Shemi on this pod and a lot of positive stuff that we've really both liked the way he's played. But despite that, he still seemingly has not earned like a stable position night to night in the rotation. He still seems to get these DMPs, which is annoying. He's clearly come a long way with the shot and the confidence. His whole offensive game, we've talked about that a lot, has been a breath of fresh air. Just that, he's capable. But I think there's still something that Brad doesn't like, and I think it's maybe just the ball's not moving enough with him, things like that. It seems weird on his defense. Like he's such a good, solid defender, but it's like getting to the point where he seems almost like too risk averse. Like he'll never ever bite on a pump fake, but he'll also never even jump to contest a shot. Like he'll contest just with his hand up in your face, but he'll never get a jumper and block a shot. He'll never reach in and get a steal. Like he's, I don't know, he's like a robot on defense. So he's good. Don't get me wrong. It's almost just like funny to watch the way he's been programmed when he goes in there and never takes any chances or does anything kind of off script, which in a lot of ways is good, but in some other ways, sometimes I'm like, damn, Shemi, like jump that passing lane or do something a little more aggressive, because I think he still is a really good athlete and kind of could improve in some ways there. But yeah. I mean, I guess on offense, it's got to be just that they think the ball's stopping too much, but he's been much quicker to kind of react. He's taken advantage of teams that are slow to rotate, and he'll make a pump fake and drive, or he'll catch and shoot with confidence. So he's come a long way. It's been promising. I think, again, a solid B is a fair grade.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. I might even go B plus. I mean, I think his confidence going to the rim is, has come as like tenfold what it was last year. His shot making, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm confident in him taking a corner three. I just think he's improved enough this offseason to earn, a B plus. And he's last year, I was worried that he could be the odd man out the off season, and he's proven me wrong. I mean, he's an NBA player, and I think second round pick was his fourth year in the league, and he's getting 20 minutes a game. I mean, what more could you ask for, really? I mean, like you said, solid defender, very risk adverse, but I mean, I guess do what you're good at, whatever's, if you're not comfortable,
it's better than bad defense.
Yeah,
certainly.
Exactly. So I mean, if you're just a very stable defender and you hold your ground, you don't bite on anything, then you're gonna at least be an average defender. So I don't know. Maybe I assume that's how Brad's coaching. I mean,
if you had to guess, what percentage of Shemi's field goal attempts do you think are threes?
Field goal attempts, 80%,
71%. So
wow,
pretty close.
That's not. I mean, that's just this season.
Yeah,
that's not.
It's
surprising.
gone up. It's gone up. Well, not every year, but it's been over 50% every year.
Yeah.
It was 65 last year, up to 71 this year.
I mean, I think that's who he is.
But the percentage has risen every year, and he's up to over 38% this year. So yeah, that's solid.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's who he is. I think that's what his best position is as a corner three defender. Maybe with a little bit of upside.
Yeah, and it's just like, like we said, this year he's shooting over three threes a game.
And if
he had never even reached 2 in a season before this, so it's a big difference.
I think we've compared him to the likeness of maybe a PJ Tucker, someone that if he can be something approaching that, I think that's obviously an asset for any team, really. Okay, so we're now going to hit on Grant Williams. He's kind of been a mystery this year, rotation wise and minutes wise. We've talked a lot about that. So maybe he's a little bit hard to grade, but what do you think?
A lot of these guys feel hard to grade, and it feels like you can, watch them on any 2 given nights, and it could range from an F to an A. Grant, I settled on a C-, which even as I say it feels kind of harsh, but it's just kind of been a rough year and disappointing. And he finally got back into the rotation the last couple games and looked really good. And that probably raised his grade up. So I guess overall Grant is probably one of the guys who I really have been just frustrated with his lack of consistent minutes. He was a DNP a lot of games recently, and that hurts, but at the same time, when he does play, sometimes he's looked nice. He's had some really good moments. He's shot 43% on threes from the season. He's lights out from the corner. So again, I don't want to be too harsh because it seems like a lot of stuff is just the roster is not really tailored for him to play a significant role where I'd like him to, which would be at kind of a small ball 5 or even starting. If he was the quote unquote second big starting, to me, that would be a lot more palatable than kind of starting the 2 centers as we have been. So I don't want to be too critical where there's just been so much weirdness and so much inconsistency with his minutes, but I definitely expected to see more and kind of expected to see a bigger jump in his overall game. And I thought he'd be a guy who we were really relying on as part of the rotation. Now, again, I think the last couple of games, he's played like 30 something minutes after a shitload of DNPs in a row. So who knows, maybe that is still the case, but for whatever reason, it's just been weird and overall a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I mean,
is that harsh?
No, I don't think it's harsh. Because when he's playing well, he's playing real well. But like you said, in his role, he's in a tough position. I mean, we have 3 centers right now, and I think ultimately he's best suited to be a small ball 5. I mean, when he's playing the 4, he seems out of place. I mean, he doesn't really have that skill set to be a modern 4, I guess. So it's I guess it's sort of the opportunity is working against him, but you can only play as well as the opportunity you're given. So the inconsistency, I'd say probably C minus is fair. And then another one of our favorites, Jeff Teague, comes in at 18.1 minutes per game. How are we grading Jeffrey Teague?
So I think I gave Jeff a D. I don't know. We kind of mentioned at the beginning, he was really frustrating. He got his way completely out of the lineup. It was brutal. It was like every time he went in, he was just turning the ball over. Couldn't help himself. Wasn't making shots. Wasn't playing as good a D as we expected. And then, like I said, a long string of DNPs. Now he seems back in the rotation recently and has looked like serviceable. Like I said, about what you'd want from a 35, whatever year old you signed to the vet minimum. He's been solid in that role. So that bumped him up to a passing grade in my books. I gave him a D, and I'm hoping that he's another guy who can get that up to more respectable number by the end of the year, because the last couple of weeks were promising.
Yeah, I don't want to overreact to the last few games, obviously, but if that's any indication, then it's a huge step in the right direction. Overall, like you said, the year's been, I'd be willing to say, a disaster for him.
Disastrous, yeah.
Disastrous. But he's actually been solid from three, like consistently for the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really cringed when he was taking an open three.
No.
At any point this season.
He can shoot. Yeah, he can make an open shot. I don't think that's going away. It's kind of the other stuff.
Yeah, everything else. That was pretty much the only aspect of the game, up until recently, that I've been, remotely, even slightly confident in. So, he can shoot free throws too, I guess. But he's solid as a shooter, pure shooter, I guess. Which I wasn't really expecting. I guess I don't know if that's really been his. Really his MO. Shots. Yeah, but so if he can continue to hit threes and then have a slight improvement, in the other aspects of it for the rest of the year, and then, we can drop those minutes down to closer to 10. I'd feel a lot better about it. But
I was gonna say, despite even kind of talking him up recently, I think at this point, at the end of the year, if we're healthy, he's probably nothing more than like an emergency change of pace in the middle of a playoff series that isn't going well. And in game 4 of a series, we get down 20 and we throw in Teague instead of Pritchard to light a spark. To me, he's not, if he's part of the rotation in the playoffs, we're in trouble.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. I think that's enough for Teague. I don't want to spend too much time there.
Yeah, we're getting to the guys where it seems almost unfair to grade them. Although the next
than the next guy,
right?
The most crucial grade probably this entire segment, Mr. Robert Williams. I feel like I know where you're going to go with this grade, but you've surprised me so far. So what do you got?
First of all, I just want to say the fact that if anyone didn't pick up on it at home, we've been going through the roster in order of minutes per game, and we're just now getting to Robert Williams. So I just
below Jeff Teague,
just behind Teague, Grant Williams, and Ojeleye comes Robert Williams.
Not even just below, 2 full minutes behind Jeff Teague.
Yeah. So obviously, like we said, it seems things are finally starting to trend in the right direction.
Right.
But I gave Rob a B+. So I think he's been really good. Like I said, the mistakes are still there. There's still times. There's been a game he went in and I think committed 4 fouls in 2 minutes. He still will just leap on some pump fakes. He still can kind of look disastrous when lost in a pick and roll. I get stuck on an island and he doesn't sometimes know, am I switching? Am I hedging? Am I dropping? So it's there's little subtle stuff there that is still obviously needs to improve. And, I think you could say the same on offense. But overall, big picture, massive steps in the right direction, pretty much across the board. Those defensive things that I just mentioned are night and day better than they were even last regular season. Into the bubble, you saw some signs, but he still was getting lost against good, smart teams. Now, the mistakes have cut down to a point where you can live with them against in any matchup. And there's no situation where I don't want him on the floor. He's proven that the upside outweighs it, and even the mistakes, it's like he's following them up with an absurd putback dunk or making a great pass out of nowhere. He'll get beat off the dribble, but then recover with a crazy block because he's so athletic. So B plus really just because I think I can't just completely exonerate him from the fact that he's played so little. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I'm not going to just say he's not at all to blame for the fact that he hasn't come along more, I guess. But it does seem like it's really all starting to click. So he's been awesome, B plus, and I hope that he can be pushing for an A plus by the end of the season, as hopefully he's logging 28 to 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, and the way he's played, I don't know, whatever it's been the last month, I would certainly give him I'd say he'd be higher than a B plus.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
The season as a whole, then that's, B plus is fair. Like you said, he hasn't been playing big minutes for some reason. And obviously it's not all because of Brad's, rotation. I mean, there's a reason why Brad hasn't played him, 25 minutes a game all year long. So
exactly,
whether that's, his gameplay or his injury history or whatever it is, he has to take some sort of a hit for that. You can't give a guy playing 16 minutes a game an A.
That's kind of why
right.
why I was at. Yeah.
Right. So, we can't really talk about Robert Williams any more than we have, the last pretty much every podcast. I'd say
we've beaten
spent
Rob into the ground as much as maybe any other topic.
So we can't be any more high on Time Lord. I mean, he's awesome. I can't wait to see where he goes, and I don't know. I mean, he's an exciting player, and exciting to see where he's come the last month, and just fingers crossed he stays healthy, and by playoff time he's a 25, 30 minute minute a game guy.
It's the plan, I hope. It's my plan.
Coach Chud.
Yeah, that's the Coach Chud playbook. I'm tipping my hand now.
Coach Chud has Robert Williams playing 40 minutes a game. All right. Tough, maybe another tough one to grade. Aaron Nesmith had some major ups and downs, but
I think these last five guys are really, really hard to grade,
right?
For different reasons. Mostly because they don't play much.
Right, exactly. I think you can probably give Nesmith and Javante. They've probably had enough of a sample size to give them, an incomplete grade of some sort. But the rest of the people, Carson, Tremont, Taco, I don't think they're even worth talking about, to be honest.
So Nesmith, I settled on a C, which again might seem harsh, but at the same time, it's kind of just based on the expectation, which is all we can really do here. He's drafted 14th, seemingly had at least one NBA ready skill that he could come in and make shots, and that didn't happen at all for a long time. Like I said, we finally saw him get into the rotation, and it actually looked really good, but the first month he looked lost. The same stuff I've said about guys recovering from injury and about Pritchard, no training camp, no offseason, no summer league, all that stuff that guys usually have. And Nesmith was really young. He didn't come in NBA ready, clearly. So I give him credit that he's come this far and has gotten to a point where it looks pretty much night and day from the beginning of the year. Now, clearly it wasn't good enough to earn him a steady spot in the rotation, but I'm still hopeful that we can keep seeing improvements, and maybe by the end of the year he can get there as a bench player. But he provides what we need, what we keep saying. He's giving the effort. He's given us a spark on a couple different occasions. I've really liked what we've seen in terms of especially the defensive side of the ball. He's done a good job, figured out how to guard. He's using his size, his athleticism. He's helped us kind of switch. Like I keep saying, just having one more guy out there who fits that mold of like a switchable wing, at least 2 through 4. It makes such a difference. Even if he's not that good at it yet, just the ability even is giving us a boost. And we've seen flashes of the shooting, but not really what we were hoping for when we kept hearing kind of best shooter in the draft. So that's kind of the one part. We unlock that, and let's have a game where Neesmith gets hot and makes 7 threes or something like that. Then I'll get really excited. But so far, it just hasn't come together yet. So C seemed like a fair grade.
Yeah. C minus. And again, like you were saying, maybe we put a little bit too high of expectation on him coming into the year. But like you said, his one NBA ready skill was shooting. And I mean, if you can shoot in college, you should be able to shoot in the NBA to some extent. And I mean, he wasn't making threes for a good portion of the season. And if he's not making threes, first half of the year, then he's basically doesn't have a role in this team. So yeah. I know we talked about early in the year where we thought he was actually the perfect pick for us at that point, because that's what we needed. We needed a guy that can just,
and I'm not giving up on that idea. I still think that is the case. Just because he's 19, 20 years old and isn't that right now doesn't mean he won't be.
No. I mean, this isn't, a career grade projection. It's just how far he's going.
Of course.
I have seen some things I like from him. Obviously, it seemed seemingly out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he had this like defensive intensity that just came out of nowhere. I mean, I forget which game it was, but remember he came out when he had that game where he played like 30 minutes or something, 25 minutes.
Right.
And he looked like an NBA player.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but it was a win. I'm pretty sure. No, well, I think first it was in the Wizards game that we got killed.
Oh, yeah.
But then he came in the next night and played like 26 minutes in a win. So yeah, it was it was a bunch of DNPs for a long time, and then 3 straight games he played like 25 or more minutes and looked good. So again, the weirdness of the rotations and whatnot, but then now he's back to DNP the last few games.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think part of that was kind of they wanted crisper, quicker, more decisive ball movement on offense.
Yeah, and he's been surprisingly good from inside the 3-point line, which I wasn't expecting.
Right. Yeah, he showed an ability to get to the hoop and had some athletic finishes, drawn a couple fouls, I think made a couple and ones, stuff like that, and some chase down blocks on defense. Yeah. Not the way I don't think either of us thought he was going to be contributing as a rookie. So it's cool to see that without the shot, which has been his defining skill falling, he's worked hard and found other ways to contribute. So that is promising.
Yeah. So aspects of his game we didn't see developing probably for a while have shown through at points.
Yeah.
But being able to snipe really he hasn't had a stretch or even like a game really where we've seen that sniper.
Yeah. And I think it's just rhythm. And, if he's consistently getting 25 minutes a night and getting 10 shots a night, I think we're going to start to see it.
Yeah. So hopeful. But C minus is fair at this point in the season.
Okay.
And then let's wrap it up with Javonte. One of the, he doesn't get a ton of credit, I think. Not that he's, deserves a ton of credit, but he's underappreciated, I think. What would you give him for a grade?
I gave Javonte a B+, because again, it's just expectation. This is a guy who wasn't drafted. He's 27 and hasn't, not made an indent in the league, and now is at times looking like a borderline rotation player. He still doesn't get a lot of minutes, but he doesn't seem like he needs a lot of minutes. He's kind of the perfect 12th man who is content not playing for a while, but what he brings, you could put him in for a spark off the bench, and he's just instant energy. Zooming around again on D, he's another guy who can switch things and is versatile, absurd explosiveness on offense, and he's even shown an ability to knock down some open shots. So he's kind of exceeded my expectations, I guess, everywhere you'd want to see it. He's obviously still he hasn't cracked the rotation on a night-to-night basis, but when needed, and this year with all the injuries and other stuff, he's been needed a lot. He's played really well. It's hard for me to knock a guy who's come as far as he has and has, found a home in the league. We guaranteed his contract the other day, and I thought I was not surprised, and it was well-deserved. I was happy for him.
Yeah, I think the role he's in, he deserves pretty good grade. I mean, he's earned that role. 10 to 15 minutes a game. If you can, if he is a 10 to 15 minute player in the NBA, deservingly, then that's a solid role for him.
Very.
Crazy athleticism, quick. He's becoming more comfortable as like a corner 3-point shooter, which he can probably get better at. But I feel, not confident when he's taking a three from the corner, but he's making them much more consistently than I thought he would. I know he's probably
still doesn't look good. He's got almost like it's not quite as broken looking as like Kid Gilchrist's shot.
Yeah, it doesn't
but
look
it's somewhere
great.
Between like Teague and Sean Marion. It's very like slingshot off the shoulder. But hey, as long as it goes in, I really don't care.
So I don't know what his percentage is. It's probably not great, but still, I like to see him with the confidence. And I mean, if you can be like, explosive and get to the rim and, run the floor on fast breaks, then you'll have, a role to some extent in the NBA. And his role in this team is, perfect, I think, for what he is. He's never going to be, a starter or, great player, even like a, top 8 rotational guy, but 10, 10th guy off the bench. I mean, it's not unreasonable. 11th, 12th. I don't know. I mean, a guy that gets
I'll tell you what he could do. He could have been in that damn dunk contest the other night.
Yes.
If they're going with guys who aren't even in rotations, like send Javonte. But that's another story for another day.
So I'm happy with Javonte.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just gonna go up and down the roster and grade every player based on, I think, expectation, it's hard to find a guy who I think has kind of overachieved and exceeded expectations more than Javonte. He just didn't really have expectations though. But I don't think anyone could say he's underperformed.
Yeah, I mean, 0 expectations and then playing decently is pretty good.
He started a couple games here and there because of different reasons, but good with
I'm
Javonte.
I'm a Javonte fan, so
gotta be.
Okay, so I think we agreed that Edwards, Tremont, Taco, not really worth a grade.
CCA.
Right. There you go. F D A plus.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, so that kind of wraps up our thoughts on pretty much everything and everyone Celtics from the first half. So that's a good chunk of content for everybody out there. Now, quickly, let's kind of chew up some second half thoughts. Moving on, looking forward, the Celtics have 36 games left. They don't have a lot of time to play those 36 games, so it will be a frenetic pace. Not a lot of rest.
Can't wait.
Yeah, as a fan, that's great news. For the players, it's probably not. So I hope they actually got some rest and a break over this time. We do have the 13th easiest remaining schedule, so pretty much right about average, obviously. 8 more games to go, then the trade deadline. Marcus Smart, if not back now, should be back very soon. And don't forget, Romeo Langford hopefully will be back at some point, who at the end of last year was looking good, was legitimately in our rotation, seemingly had figured it out on D, is another one of those guys who fills a huge theoretical role for the Celtics and was a recent lottery pick, is still, I think, only 19 or 20. He's a little younger than Aaron Nesmith even. So that is a real thing, that Langford is coming back, as far as I know, at least.
I feel like I've been hearing it for 5 years. So
I know. Well, but you really haven't for that long. It's been unfortunate. But again, like I said, he's still super young.
I know.
So based on everything that has happened so far in this season, knowing what you know now, let's take a second and kind of reset and readjust our thinking. So what now do you think is a reasonable and fair expectation for the Celtics team this season?
I don't remember exactly what I said the last time we had this conversation, but I think it was along the lines of, playoff team, 4 through 6 seed, not a contender. Just a team that's in another year of trying to get another year closer to actually figuring out what they need to do to be a true contender. I don't think we've really gotten further away from that by any means. And our struggles the first half, I don't think, they're solved by any means. And I'm not sure we can really take another step into being, I don't know if we can do anything really to be a contender, anything realistic to be a real contender this year, at the trade deadline. I mean, I don't think, Bradley Beal at the trade deadline is realistic or anything like that. If it's not a person like that, a move like that, then I don't think we're in the conversation at all. Even like, Vooch or something like that, which again, we don't really think that's a possibility, but so that's what I mean. Like, I don't think any of these big moves that might put us into playoff contender contention, I don't think any of those are realistic. So at this point, I think we can definitely get better just internally with what we have, but to even take like a leap to be like a real, someone that can get to the Eastern Conference Finals and compete with Philly and Brooklyn and Milwaukee, I think it's going to take something external. So some sort of moves, one or two probably. We've touched on a bunch of people. I think the last few episodes, I think we were probably a little bit too optimistic on who might be available. I feel like the closer we get to the trade deadline, there's actually less people that are going to be on the trade block than I thought. So we'll see what happens there, but I think it's going to take one or two fairly significant trades for us to really become even a player and, to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, that's I guess tough medicine to swallow, but probably the most realistic outcome. So yeah, I think I agree with you that there's really not much we can do to get on the same level as the Nets. I still have some optimism that when we see this team at full strength, we can get into a good enough rhythm that we can compete with Philly and Milwaukee, at least, assuming neither team makes a move. They're definitely ahead of us. We're not in that tier right now. We're not. But I'm still confident we can get there. But yeah, I don't know that we can kind of reach where Brooklyn is. And it's unfortunate, but I think that's just the reality right now. Like you said, there's not a blockbuster trade out there that's going to happen. There really isn't. And like you said, it seems like we kept kind of telling ourselves, I'll just wait till the deadline. Things will fall out of it. More sellers will emerge. It hasn't happened. It's kind of been the opposite. And this play-in tournament is just keeping teams in it. There are very few teams that are just out of it. And even some of those ones have kind of made it clear that they don't care. They're just not selling for whatever reason. They don't want to sell that to the fans. So teams like the Kings, the Bulls have kind of already said, we're not selling guys like Harrison Barnes and Thaddeus Young. So we'll see. That can change. That could be posturing. And at the end of the day, if someone gives them an offer that they can't refuse, it won't happen. But by the same token, I think with what we've seen from the Celtics, it's a move like that. A Harrison Barnes isn't tilting the scale enough. It's not making us beat the Nets. Even, Thaddeus Young and Harrison Barnes, I don't think that's enough to push us over the Nets anymore. So I want to be optimistic, but it's going to take Kemba surging back to like all-star form and really everything going right. And even them probably getting some luck with this current iteration of the team. So guys who I was super excited about, Barnes, Thaddeus Young, etc. Now I don't want to say I've gone the other way, but I guess that leads to my next question. With now that we've kind of both lowered our expectations to what I think is more realistic, what do you think is the best and most realistic way to use our $28 million traded player exception? Because now throwing all our assets in to add fringe guys almost doesn't seem like enough or worth it, to the point where I'm not sure I want to expend those assets. So at this point, like, if we were playing really well and it looked like we were kind of one role player away from a title, then I could stomach maybe trading Romeo Langford in a first round pick. Now I think the value of what Romeo Langford might become in a year or two actually might be more valuable to us, or even letting him play out the end of the season. It seems like if a move is going to be made, it's going to be a big move in the offseason that probably won't even involve the exception. So I've kind of come to terms with using it, a second rounder, Carson Edwards, for Evan Fournier, even though he's expiring and we might lose him for nothing, whatever. He'll help us this year. We'll have used the exception and we won't have depleted any of our assets or ability to go chase someone else in the offseason. That's obviously just one example. A lot could still shake out, but it just seems like it's going to be such a seller's market. And to get any of those kind of elite role players is going to cost a lot of money, like multiple firsts and maybe multiple young players. I don't know if that still makes sense for us to do this year, as much as Celtics fans are not going to want to hear that. What do you think?
Unfortunately, I agree. I love the idea of making a splash, deadline splashes. I mean, I think everybody loves a good deadline blocky, but I don't see any realistic scenario where we're getting somebody elite at the deadline.
No.
And I mean, if
that guy just isn't available,
he's not available. So that being the case, and like we kind of just said, we're not really contenders. So is there any point in moving firsts? I mean, if we were, playing amazing and we looked like a real contender, then obviously you start moving, first rounders, even if you're overpaying a bit to get you over the hump. But we're not there. So, we have this big TPE that, at some point we're hoping to, we got to do something with it. So if we're trying to do something with the TPE, whether it's, in the off season or now, I don't want to start burning into that and giving up first rounders and possibly, ruining our chances of making some sort of big move in the offseason. So that's also one reason why I really would like, if we're going to be trading for people, I want somebody with at least 2 years on the contract. And that's
you're going to have to give something up.
Well, I mean, it's like, a George Hill. I know he's not like really going to move the needle, but he's a good player. He's a veteran. I mean,
we talked about him last time.
What would it really take to get him? I mean, second round picks. I'm happy to give 1 million second round picks away. I mean,
if you can get him with the seconds, yeah, exactly. I'll give away second round picks. I'll give away Edwards, Waters, Javante, maybe Semi and Grant, but I think Neesmith and Romeo at this point, I'd rather just ride if we're going to get, a 4 or 5 seed and lose in the second round, let's roll with those guys, get their legs under them. And then at least they're a better asset, if nothing else, or hopefully for us, hopefully they're the players we need and we'll grow into that. But at a certain point, I'm not sure there's any value in playing vets over them if it's not really leading us to anywhere better.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, a move like George Hill, it's, assuming it's like 1 or 2 seconds and, Draymond or whatever. I'm okay giving that a shot. I mean, worst case,
definitely
he stinks. Best case, he fills a, big role for us and makes us a better team. Plus we'll have that, contract in the book next year, which is a tradable contract. So, I mean, that's kind of kind of a version of just throwing shit against the wall in a way where it's bring him in, see what happens. Maybe, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. If it doesn't, you didn't really give up much and you still have that tradable contract for next year. So I don't really know how many of those players are available right now, but
right.
I mean,
and again, the thing is, there's so few available that the ones who are, maybe someone might have to overpay for Hill, and maybe he ends up drawing a first. And at a certain point, you don't really want to keep bidding. I guess I don't know. It's tough.
If I was, if I were, the Sixers or the Bucks or Brooklyn,
right.
I was like, hey, we can bring in George Hill. It's gonna take a first.
Exactly.
All right, fine. We have a real shot of winning this year.
No, a team like Philly, I think, is going to go all in and give every asset they can, as they should, because Embiid is at an MVP level, and they're the 1 seed right now. You don't waste that. You go all in. So we have not earned that at this point, but it's all right. That's not the end of the world. I think just the temper expectations. Some help might be coming, but I don't think a lot of help is coming at the deadline.
No.
I think
and
I'm okay with kind of using the TPE that way, though. I don't think we have to necessarily save it, because I still think the most likely opportunity for a blockbuster or to make a really big improvement is not going to be with the TPE. It's going to be with probably Kemba's contract, or maybe down the road the contracts of whoever we could get with the TPE. But a blockbuster at this point is going to be around guys like Neesmith, Langford, and a zillion picks. So if we throw those away on short-term minor upgrades, again, you want that instant gratification. You want to improve the team now, but I'm just not.
No.
Sadly, I'm not sure that's our best move going forward. I'm not sure that's the best way to maximize the prime years of Tatum and Brown, which at the end of the day has to be priority number one.
Yeah, and I'm always a guy that roots for fireworks. Not just because I like to see it, but I think the last couple of years, I think is warranted some, significant, mid-season trade deadline moves. I think you make a great argument that we should have made more moves than we have deadline the last couple of years. But this year, I don't think we're good enough. We're not good enough to make a big move. And if we do,
and so I think
then it's a waste of assets.
The exception, would be the only reason. So maybe guys who are on expiring deals and have fallen out of favor or whatever, like PJ Tucker maybe has played so poorly and the Rockets are clearly now tanking. Maybe we can get him for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
And I keep mentioning Fournier, as you know, but guys like that, those are 2 guys who are expiring, would probably not be at a realistic part of our future, but would help us this year. And we would still kind of have a full treasure chest, depending on how we make the money work to get both. I think we'd have to at least part with something. But anyway, I think it's going to be more smaller stuff like that. The guys who are available, it seems like maybe like an Oladipo. That doesn't do it for me.
I like the idea of Oladipo. He's
a great idea.
Yeah, it's an awesome idea.
Again, he just turned that 2 for 45. So are we renting him?
And
I don't want to pay him long term. Do you?
No, he's not going to be a cheap rental either.
Yeah. So to rent him, we're not. Again, he's not worth giving up the assets to rent him. So unless Danny thinks we want to get him and he wants to pay him and make him kind of our third guy on offense. Which I wouldn't love.
No, I wouldn't love it, but I guess you could do worse on Oladipo as your third.
He'd help the team, the player, obviously, but
let's not
an imperfect fit to say the least. Yeah. So I think really, since we did our last pod, we did a lot of speculating about the trade deadline, and I think we went over almost every name. So I don't want to rehash it because, frankly, it's been pretty stagnant. I don't think much has changed. If anything, some of the names we mentioned are probably less realistic now.
Definitely.
Are there any guys out there who we haven't mentioned, not just today, but in the last couple of pods, who we haven't mentioned at all this season, who you think have caught your eye as maybe now they're a target, or it's kind of just the same guys we keep talking about?
No, I think it's pretty much everything we've been talking about. Then, cut that in half. I don't think anybody else has really, risen to the top. I think if anything, people are falling off. I don't know. Is it, there's no one I can think of. Is there anyone you got?
No, there really isn't. We went pretty in depth last time, and like I said, I think our next pod maybe will be either right before or right after the deadline, and then we can kind of recap what happens. But at this point, I feel like we've done maybe too much speculating. I don't know what else is there, but so if those teams aren't selling, it's gonna be trouble. Larry Nance, we didn't talk a lot about. He was rumored, I guess. Buddy Hield maybe is rumored, but still, these are guys who we're talking multiple firsts and maybe a player, and I don't think they're good enough, I guess. And they're not good enough, and we as a team aren't good enough that it would kind of be worth it.
Yeah, I'm all set with Nance.
He's going to cost a lot. He's good. I like him, but he's going to cost.
Most of these people that I'm all set with is mostly because it's going to cost too much
Yeah.
for
And
not enough of a return.
Also, the Cavs just came out and said they're not trading him. They keep
Right.
getting calls and they said they have no interest in moving him. So
that's the thing. Everybody, I mean, nobody is available.
yeah, right. Exactly.
So-
So I think that's kind of the bigger takeaway. All right. So we've beaten that one to death. So I don't know. Any other thoughts, expectations on the second half of the season? I think we've pretty much covered it, right?
Yeah.
We want to see the team just get back to health, play in a rhythm, and at least just go into the playoffs playing well and feeling like we have a chance. That's all I want to see. Give me a fighting chance. Give me a reason to get my heart broken.
Yeah. As currently constructed, the Jays need to continue to be all-stars. Kemba needs to, get back to his all-star level.
Mhm.
And Marcus needs to be healthy. And if we can get those four things, then we'll at least be a fun playoff team.
Yeah.
Worst case. So
And crunch time, Lord.
Yeah. Oh, crunch time, Lord. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking for. That's a fun lineup if it's healthy and playing well. And that's all I'm really hoping for this year.
Yeah. I think that's about it. Let's go in as, the team that everyone is now written off and going back in kind of with a chip on our shoulder, everyone healthy, playing well, playing loose, and let's see it. Let's see it. Let's get back to what we were hoping to see at the beginning of the year by the playoffs, and I'll be very happy.
Agreed. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. It's tough. It's not what you want to hear, but
tough pill to swallow, but that's what it is.
That's all right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up all of our takes on the Celtics for this current time. We'll reconvene hopefully in a few weeks around that March 25th trade deadline. Seems like a good target date to recap the deadline. Let's hope there is something at least to recap, but something we like.
We'll find something to talk about.
All right. But again, for Nick Perino, I'm Ben Handler. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Chuddy's Corner. See you next time.
See ya.
Should've never sent him to pick up the work for him. Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart Boy was shooting with a 36 on him. Said if he wasn't in a rush, they was all goners. Tech cursive on the Jets, he was gonna Sean John him. They was sleeping on the guard, then it dawned on